National Signing Day event. Great to be here with you on this Wednesday afternoon, and great to have Courtney Cronin, who is the high school sports editor at the Clarion-Ledger. You've spent a ton of time covering the state of Mississippi. Thanks for coming by.
Of course. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, today you got an early start. And I did too. So I'm up eating breakfast at around maybe 5:30 a.m.
What?
Yeah, and then all of a sudden, bloop, bloop, I had driving to do. I look, and Courtney Cronin is live on Periscope. And I'm talking early. You got an early start.
I did. We were up around 5. We all started around 6 a.m., and I think we're still going. I mean, the press conferences are happening right now at the schools. So it's about a 15-hour day when you put it all together. And then, recruiting's year-round, so sure. I don't even know how you count the hours for that. But National Signing Day is an event. Yeah. It's always been an event for us, and I love it. I mean, you have to have some sort of drive to do it because it's crazy when you think about it.
Sure. And fans, obviously, the fan interest has grown and grown and grown, which is good for folks like you and folks like us. Richard has asked the same question of seemed like everybody today, so we'll ask you.
I was about to.
Biggest stories. The biggest storyline. I know it's hard to pick one, but the biggest storyline out there today.
Jeffery Simmons. I mean, it's a no-brainer. A.J. Brown was the story until Jeffery went and shocked I don't think there were many people in the state who thought he was going to Mississippi State, and all of a sudden, even leading up to the 11th hour, we hear Alabama's coming on. The last 12 to 24 hours, the Crimson Tide and Nick Saban and the 16 national championships have been working their prowess to try to pull this kid out of Mississippi so we would have 4 kids from this Mississippi 2016 class go east. And then all of a sudden, 20 minutes before he committed, you start hearing, oh my gosh, Mississippi State may be pulling one of the biggest upsets of the day. And it certainly was. And, no one ever said Jeffery Simmons was done, that it was a lock to Ole Miss. I mean, that was – from everybody who covers recruiting, that's what we had been hearing for quite some time. Ole Miss was the leader and had been the leader throughout his recruitment, leading, basically at the end of the 2015 high school football season over the last month and a half. And that is, Dan Mullen saved signing day for Mississippi State with what was looking to be a not-so-great class when it really panned out by landing Jeffery Simmons.
It just
jumped up in the rankings tremendously.
Totally changed the story that we're talking about today. And what about – do you think maybe the follow-up there is David Turner and the job that he must have done, because we saw the video where Dan Mullen then went in there and gave him this big bear hug and tried to pick him up. I don't think he could do it, but David apparently was behind that.
Yeah, David Turner's always been a very good recruiter from Mississippi State. You go back in the years past. Fletcher Adams looked to be Ole Miss bound about more than a year ago, and David Turner's able to lock him up. Obviously, the brother connection there, but that was one of the top players that they had in their 2015 class. And there's just nothing you can say except good things as far as David Turner. He likes big, thick offensive linemen with length. And, that's what Jeffery Simmons is. He plays at pad level. He plays low. He's 6'4", 275 pounds. That kid could start on an SEC defensive line tomorrow.
Yeah. Courtney Cronin, high school sports editor at the Clarion-Ledger, has been covering recruiting for months and months and months, and now National Signing Day. Do you believe that obviously Mississippi State, there was a tweet from Dan Mullen almost immediately after Jeffery Simmons' announcement. Do you think that Hugh Freeze and Nick Saban knew?
No.
Or if they're watching, you think their jaws both dropped when they heard the announcement?
Absolutely. You take a look. Chris Lowe from ESPN tweeted this out earlier that he was in the war room. He's embedding with Ole Miss today. And it was, I guess, everybody was just complete silence and then a mass exodus. And you don't react that way if you know something's coming. To me, that is the ultimate rug pulled out from under you. I'm not sure if it was the same with Alabama. Alabama, in my opinion, was more on the outside looking in late in this recruitment. They really put the heat on him in the last 12 to 24 hours. But and the thing is, the sad thing about it is, Ole Miss has a really good class, yet kind of the reaction that we have seen is that because Simmons isn't there and a part of this and is not signing with Ole Miss, that everything's kind of gone to,
which is not
the case at all.
That's not reality.
Well,
you got a top 5 class.
You had 2 5-stars committed a long time before that and who had already signed, which gets forgotten about on signing day because everybody's about the pomp and circumstance watching ESPN.
Yeah, it kind of has a flow to it.
I read somewhere, I can't remember where, but somebody used the phrase with regard to National Signing Day, recency bias.
Yeah,
and absolutely. I thought that's a really good way to describe it. And Matt, you've talked about this in years past on National Signing Day. if you commit in September
Yeah.
and never change and never waffle and you're boring about it, you get nothing. If you hang on and you have a hat ceremony or you jump out of an airplane, you get tons of publicity on National Signing Day.
And, we laugh, but it is true. We mentioned Mike Juarez. Has that decision come down yet?
UCLA.
So he chose UCLA. See, so he was one of the later ones. But what's to say a kid like that, doesn't wait and decide to do it tomorrow to make everybody talk about him for another day? And some of that stuff happens. But, yeah, recency bias. That's the thing. Now, let's go back to A.J. Brown. How did Ole Miss go into the heart of Oktibbeha County, right under Mississippi State's nose, and take A.J. Brown out of there?
Well, you saw the comments that A.J. said on record earlier this afternoon after his signing ceremony that he just didn't feel wanted with Mississippi State. Take that for what it's worth at face value. Mississippi State wanted this kid. They needed this kid.
Sure.
But from the beginning, though, A.J. had always had, and it's not a bad thing, I think we fault kids half the time for having dreams of leaving home.
Right.
I
Been
think
there his whole life.
He's a Starkville native. This kid he's already, I think elite athletes who have the chance to travel the country. I mean, he went to Chicago for the Under Armour baseball game. He's one of 2 people in history to do that. Kyler Murray also played in the Under Armour baseball game and the Under Armour football game. A.J.'s the second player to do that. A.J.'s been a lot of places. I don't think that as, just you see the backlash and that it should automatically be assumed that this kid is going to be a Mississippi State Bulldog just because of his zip code. Mm-hmm. That's not fair.
Right.
I mean, the kid has always been adamant that he wanted to explore things. I mean, even back at our Dandy Dozen shoot late in July, he said that, I'm thinking about, expanding my horizons and doing something different.
Do you think A.J. tries to play baseball at Ole Miss also?
I think it's going to be tough. I mean, the last person who tried to do that was Sinquez Golson. It just didn't work out very well. For me,
takes a special guy to pull that off.
You just don't have the time. There's a reason Alabama wasn't throwing that out as a ploy to him, because I don't think Nick Saban wants to share any of his players with any of the other sports they have on campus.
And it might not necessarily be what's best for A.J. Brown, too, because I've been saying, and I believe this, I believe he's a 3-year guy. If he stays healthy, I believe he plays 3 years and he's drafted. And if you're that kind of player in football, it's almost like, okay, I understand it'd be fun to play baseball, but that might not be what's best for him.
It might not at the end of the day. I know that baseball kind of came on late. It was something that Mississippi State, kind of threw into the mix, and then Ole Miss throws into the mix. To me, it's not a surprise that, he had been adamant about wanting to do both for a little bit. I just don't. I mean, maybe they'll try, but it hasn't been done before really successfully.
Right.
So at least not in the modern
Since
era.
Bo Jackson might be the last one. Frank Thomas.
Was he a little different?
Maybe a little different.
Maybe just a little bit
He's
different.
Superman, yeah.
Courtney, know you've been all over the place and have been covering this for quite a while. We certainly appreciate your time. Appreciate you making time for us today. Great to see you.
Thanks so much.
Thank
Appreciate
you.
it.